Welcome to the LogicBox with me, Jones, still in Accra, Ghana, and I bumped into this young man. He is young. I've been calling him young since the first time I met him. He's very funny, a comedian, probably the best to come out of London. Eddie Kadi, how are you doing, sir?
I'm glad you said the best, because I was about to just expose how you didn't bump into me. That you chased me, you hunted me down. You know, in this Ghana traffic is how I got away, but somehow I found you ahead of me. But I appreciate you, Baba. Good to see you, man.
All right, man. So, Eddie, I know you usually come to Ghana a lot.
Yeah.
And but this time it's for the Afro Nation, which you hosted, in conjunction with the Year of Return.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people have spoken about the Year of Return and also the Afro Nation and how successful it's been. Of course, you hosted it. How did you find it?
I thought it was phenomenal. It was exciting, one of the best moments of my career. And I said this when I did Portugal too. You know, a lot of people were asking me to compare the two. You know, how's the Ghana Afro Nation, was it better or worse than Portugal? And I said that's a very silly conversation to go down, because Portugal's Portugal, man. Yeah. It's a different continent, different culture. You know, people only flew out an hour and a half from the UK and a few hours from Europe, or maybe even half an hour for some, for that one event, and every day we're going to that one event. Here we are in Ghana, where there were millions of events going on, and people have been coming back for years anyway, so they already know what to do. Some people have come home, they've got families. You know, Ghana time, people don't want to start events at 12 o'clock, they want to start later on, because the night before they were in Club Twist. So many different things. And of course they also decided to work with the locals, which had its challenges, but the ultimate reason for that was to incorporate everyone, because everybody must chop. And so everybody must feel like they're benefiting from it, not just those who are coming from abroad, and then we make the locals feel like we've come to splatter our privilege all over them. But in terms of, you know, what I know was going in the background, the challenges, and for those guys at Afro Nation to achieve what they achieved, top class, man, phenomenal.
Now, I watched your interview, the interview you did before us coming here, and you touched on something, and you said you are a Pan-Africanist.
Yeah.
And we've always spoken of the unification of Africa. Do you think that Afro beats could lead the way to unite Africans, especially the new generation?
We've always loved music. This is not the first time it's happened. This wave of African music going around the world. You know, the Fela Kutis, they did it. We saw them with the Paul McCartneys of this world. You know, Baba Miles, Angelique Kidjo, Youssou N'Dour, Salif Keita. They've been winning these Grammys for years, man. Let's not forget the Awilo Longombas, Kofi Olomide, Kanabongo, man. This is nothing new. So in saying that will Afrobeats do it, no, we have to do it. Man, every single time they give us instruments is to say that you are the ones to do it, but this is just a tool.
But I'm talking about the drive, because the new generation now there's a sense of belonging where people want to get in touch with their roots.
Yeah.
And it seems like Afrobeats has driven this massive movement.
If we choose it to be, I mean, look, I love Afrobeats. It's played a big part in my life. It's played a big part in empowering young Africans for them to find their identity within it. So they created Afro pop, Afro chic, Afro slide, Afro angry, Afro amir. There are all types of genres that has Afro everything, right? So the fact is, as long as they identify themselves in it, it's a fantastic thing. If it encourages them to come back home and connect with other young Africans and they feel they're on par, it's a beautiful thing. But we have to take it a step further and understand that movies could do that. You know, Nollywood is now on Netflix. Let's not forget what's going on there. We have a lot of Africans who are in powerful position in politics abroad. We have a lot of Africans who are powerful position in fashion, in business. So we got so many different things just away from Afrobeats that they are the same thing. It's the same power, it's the same tool. The question here is, do we identify that we are the generation to carry the torch further than it's ever been carried before? If we do accept that, then that's what it makes sense. And unity is a big part. Thinking I'm Nigerian and Ghanaian, then I'm better than everyone else, you've dropped the ball. Because you have to understand that Africa was borderless before. The different corners that we had their own minerals, had their own riches, because we're supposed to combine it together to create one United States of Africa. And people came in, put the borders in, and we fell for that trick. So we are now more informed. The world is a smaller place because we're able to connect. So we have to use that opportunity to talk to each other and say, I am not better than you, you are not better than me. The diasporans need Africa as much as Africa need the diasporans. Our parents left home to go abroad, work hard. Some of them broke their arms, man. Some of them lied. died. Some of them went through so much. They did 35 million jobs just to make sure that we acquire the best skills to come back home and create a better Africa than they left. That's what our job is. And to think that is anything but that, we're completely lost. So to answer your question in short, Afrobeats does play a role, but let's also use all the other tools that we've been given to do the same thing.
And of course, this is legendary. What's happened this year with the year of return, and of course the Afro Nation. How good is it to be in Ghana, to be on the motherland, to make such history?
I've been coming to this country for many years. But every time I come, I see people from all walks of life are here. It's not the first time I've seen many people come in Ghana, but it's the first time I've seen them come in masses. And the first time I've seen so many first-timers come down. Ghana has set an example of what we could do across Africa, and we should take note. As a Congolese, I'm looking and thinking, I want to do this back home. I think an Ethiopian should come and say, I want to do this back home. If we all start doing it at the same time, then we don't have to rely on anybody else. We create our own platform and say, we can look after our own people when they do come. And it's the sense of saying, come, this is your home. Before we were looking at each other and say, you don't understand that African Americans might think Africans are looking down on them. Africans think African Americans think they're too good. But now we're saying, listen, we're siblings, man. We have history. You guys have gone to a faraway land. It's been 400 years. Your home is here. There's plenty of space. Come. And that's the conversations we should be having. And Ghana has set pace in that. Many people have been like, yeah, but it wasn't as effective as it was supposed to be. My guy, 3 years ago, it wasn't effective at all.
No.
So, come on, man. It's like saying, this Eddie guy is lazy. He never leaves his house. And the day Eddie leaves his house and buys bread, you're saying he only bought bread. But I left the house. So I think we need to stop looking at the problems and find a solution in every situation.
Now, before I came to Ghana, this is the last question, by the way. I went to Sierra Leone and had an encounter with an old man who was trying to school me about the unification of Africa. And he said people need to realize that it's not about being African, but to realize that Africa was born within you.
Yeah. Fact. I agree with that. Listen, Kwame Nkrumah said a long time ago, he said, as long as Congo is not free, Africa will not be free. And what he meant by that is he understood the significance of each location across Africa. And we all have a role to play. Just because you think in your head you are Ghanaian, it doesn't mean you are less responsible for the freedom of a place like Congo. Because you're Congolese, it doesn't mean you're less responsible for the freedom of a place like Sierra Leone. And that's what we need to recognize. When you're here, you're no longer a black man, you are a man. Yeah, because someone else just looks like you. You're no longer seeking for mainstream. You are just seeking for that space. When we're in the UK, mainstream is a reflection of your audience. So if 90% of the audience are white and they're watching you and they go, we don't understand this, that's fine. They have every right to be. But when you come to Africa, everyone looks like you, so there's no excuse. That's why people get Samsung deals. Can you imagine a Samsung deal for me in London? I would die. So my whole point is that when we're talking about the unification of Africa, we have to understand we all have a role to play across the continent, not just in our own individual countries, because we are Africa. We.
Okay, and for Britain, because a lot of our viewers are in Britain as well. Speaking about comedy and again, listening to you about your struggles and, you kept saying never giving up. I've watched a lot of your stuff, especially on YouTube, where you're speaking to white audiences, cracking jokes, and they're laughing to the point where now we even saw Kojo, your mate Kojo, on X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, to the point where it's the African accent and the African jokes and the stories that people are connecting with now.
They're not African accents, they're not African jokes.
Okay.
Let me break something down to you.
Okay.
When you watch TV in the UK, you have an Irishman who has a different accent, speaks differently. Sometimes our parents struggle to understand.
And he's Irish.
Yeah, and he's Irish. You have a man from Liverpool who have a strong Scouser accent. My mum would not understand what he's saying, okay? You have people from Manchester, different accent, different stories, different background. They get them because they are telling their stories. You can only be a fantastic version of yourself. Right. You'll always be a diluted version of someone else. Mm-hmm. So when I'm telling my story, I'm telling my Eddie story. Yes. I happen to be African. I happen to, be able to talk about my culture and my principles, and sometimes turn on a strong accent to make the story a bit more authentic, right? But it's not the African stories. And when I'm talking to white people, the reason why they understand me, because they understand me. Yeah. I'm being genuine to me. Yeah. Every human being, we share the same story. We share the same story. If I talk about eating fufu, they can talk about eating mashed potatoes. It's the same thing. If I talk about missing school, they can talk about missing school. People want you to paint your life story. That's how comedy works for me. That's why I can talk to Asians, Africans, Europeans, people want you to tell your story. Don't tell their story so you can make us comfortable. Tell yours. We want to learn. I recently did a show on Harry Hill show on Channel 4, and people are like, well done, Eddie. Channel 4. I said, yo, man, what do you mean? The world is mine as much as it is yours. If I understand you, why can't you understand me? What's going on? We've been warped to think that we should feel grateful for being accepted. No. We are who we are. And we'll always be who we are. And they know a lot more about us than we do. And it's time that we started to understand ourselves more than other people do. And once we understand ourselves more, there is nowhere in this world you can't go.
Eddie, you've been saved by the bell.
My chairman.